Welcome back to the Vanessa G Fitcast. I'm Vanessa Pozos, and here with me today, I have a very special guest, Miss MacKenzie Bowman. MacKenzie is actually one of our fabulous coaches here at Vital Spark Coaching. She joined our team about late summer 2024. She came on board with really just an impressive resume. She came to us with a bachelor's in exercise science, a master's in kinesiology, a master's in nursing, a combined 9 years of experience as a labor and delivery nurse, an athletic trainer, and an online coach. And I mean, gosh, like on paper, you would obviously be impressed by this girl, but you'd be even more impressed knowing that it's not just the knowledge and experience, but she really has walked the walk in her own journey in health and fitness. And it's one of the many reasons that she is such a loved coach on our team. We probably get some of the most just tremendous client feedback. Clients love her. Um, you know, so a little bit more context here. So MacKenzie, I know she came to us having worked as a nurse for many years, working in labor and delivery. And, with that, of course, also being a mom, multiple kids, a girl and a boy. And with that, through her own health journey, as many of our moms know, many mom listeners here, she had to work through kind of the changes in her body, going from someone who was a college athlete and an athlete all her life, then navigating postpartum journey and the stress of a really demanding career, and kind of actually rediscovering health and fitness because what used to work for her no longer worked for her. That's what led her into discovering functional health and ultimately, long story short, bringing her to where she is today, helping us out here at Vital Spark Coaching as one of our incredible coaches. So, MacKenzie, I am so excited to have you here on the podcast with us. This is long overdue, and I'm very, very excited for you to, share a little bit of your story with us all, with our listeners here, so that they can find out why you are such an incredible coach. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Vanessa. I feel like you always give me the best introductions. Like, I feel like you do such a better job than I can even do myself. I'm like, man, she just knows everything about me.
Well, just let me know when you're going to a party or something and you need me to follow you around and be your hype woman and introduce you to everybody.
Yes, I might need that. Just tell everybody how great I am, Vanessa, please.
You got it. You got it. You make it easy for me.
Oh,
Well, let's start a little bit more, a little bit more at the beginning of your journey here. So you obviously you have a master's in kinesiology, you have a bachelor's in exercise science. I'm curious, what kind of inspired you to pursue kind of that, original career path there in athletic training, and how did that kind of maybe shape, your early career and kind of early journey there when it came to health and fitness?
yeah, it's really it's fun to look back and think about where I started and where I am now because when I went to school, like any 18-year-old trying to figure out what you want to be for the rest of your life. I was an athlete. I loved sports. I played softball my entire life. I could eat, breathe, sleep sports. And so when I was thinking about what I wanted to do for a career, I wanted to be involved in sports. And I've always loved anatomy and science and the way the body works. I'm so fascinated by it. And so I actually had a coach, a softball coach who inspired me. She was an athletic trainer, and it just seemed like it would kind of embody everything that I was interested in, everything that I thought would be kind of set me up for a great career. I would be able to learn about the human body. I could work with athletes who, unfortunately, they go through injuries, but they want to get better, right? They want to heal. And so when I debated, maybe I should do physical therapy, maybe I should, choosing the right route, athletic training just stuck out to me because I wanted to work with athletes. I wanted to work with people who are really motivated to do what they had to do to get better. And so that's really what kind of took me down that route, and wanting to just make an impact on people's lives, but still be involved in like kind of the health industry and how our bodies work.
Yeah, taking, your own passion with sports and getting to kind of share that with different people through athletics, essentially. I know I can resonate on a little bit of like the athletic side of obviously equestrian, very different from softball, but having been kind of in that like collegiate sports world, it takes such a big chunk of your life and then everything leading up to it to even get to that point. It really does become part of your identity. And I know it can, for a lot of people, end up kind of creating that flow right into wanting that to be part of your career as well. And I know you kind of went on then to work a season of spring training baseball with the Chicago Cubs as an athletic trainer as well, which is a very impressive. Admittedly, I'm not really a baseball fan, so I'm sure other people would be more impressed by that. But even me, not being a baseball fan, I think that's a really impressive thing. Tell us about that. What was that like working as an athletic trainer for a professional sport like that?
Yeah, that's my little party fun fact there, about me that most people don't know. I really wanted to work baseball. That was my dream, to work baseball as an athletic trainer, and working with that caliber of an athlete was such a cool experience. Those guys literally only do baseball. And so when they have injuries, or they're even, we do so much injury prevention too as an athletic trainer. And so really working with these athletes who are just so passionate about what they do. It was such an incredible experience. Also, very eye opening at how hard and challenging of a life it could be as an athletic trainer. I got to learn what those trainers actually go through. And you start very low and have to work your way up. So it's not like you just jump into the major leagues. And so I eventually decided that that wasn't going to be the path for me, because I wanted a family and I didn't want to be traveling all the time. But what a cool experience to work with people who are just so passionate about, kind of their health and fitness, and making sure that they're at the top of their game to be able to perform at the most elite level.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I see it often carry over into your coaching and, a lot of times how you coach clients on, obviously here at Vital Spark, like we have such an expertise in the more functional health, more in the nutrition. And I think you really stand out too as a coach who not just has that kind of expertise and experience in those areas, but also with kind of that more athletic training background. I see that show up a lot in your coaching and when we talk through client cases. And know you just today we're kind of sharing an update on a client who has had multiple surgeries and different things, and you've been working with her on kind of pulling back her training and doing essentially like different styles of training, and with that she's actually hitting PRs and she's stronger than she's been, and she's been so impressed by that. I guess I'm curious from your perspective, like how did maybe those early years of kind of pursuing more of the athletic training degree, or kind of like that experiences initially kind of being a little bit more in sports, both yourself and kind of working in it, how has that maybe shaped who you are as a coach, or just like part of your journey as a whole?
Yeah, I think it's a big part of my journey, because I've always been passionate about the body and the human body and the way that it works. And so as I've gotten older and gone through my own experiences, I've gotten to see that there's a lot more to the body than just maybe the muscles and the bones and the ligaments and how those things all work together. But there's so much internally as well, which has just kind of exploded my passion even more for how the body works. But that was really, truly just what shaped me initially, and just being so intrigued by the human body and the way that it all works together. So yeah, I think that that has just only excelled from there. That was like the beginning building blocks of my interest and passion about just how the body all works together. And it's just like I said, I've only exploded because now we know so much about gut health and hormones and how that all affects the female body. And so there's just, basically only been growth from there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even speaking of kind of like the growth and your passion and interest in health and the human body. So you had kind of started out, of course, pursuing more of like the exercise science, the athletic training. Then you got married and you went on to nursing school. Tell us about that shift. What led you to then decide to pursue nursing at that point? And share maybe a little bit of like that part of your journey too.
Yeah, so to be honest, it was a little bit money motivated. I realized as an athletic trainer that I was going to have fairly poor quality of life, not make very much money, and also be working a lot. The hours that I worked as an athletic trainer, I was working all evenings, all weekends. And my husband and I got married in my first year as an athletic trainer, and we wanted a family, we wanted kids, and so I wanted a career that could be really sustainable. My dad's mom, my grandma, was a nurse, and she always just had the most respect for me. I think she's one of the greatest humans that ever lived. And so, as I was thinking about where I wanted to take my career from athletic training, what that could kind of transition into, nursing was kind of at the forefront of my brain. A I'm a people person. I love to take care of people. And I did that as an athletic trainer, just in a little bit of a different way. And so nursing was going to be a way for me to kind of further my education relatively quickly. So I already had a lot of the prerequisites that I needed to go on and get that degree. And it was going to be a career that I could continue to take care of people, continue to be in the world of the human anatomy, right? And the body and how it works. And so yeah, I went back to school, got my degree in nursing, got my first job in the ICU, which was
And
very unique in itself, and was not something that I enjoyed whatsoever. And after having my own two kiddos, labor and delivery was what was calling my name. And so, for the last 7 years, basically, I've been taking care of women and their bodies and helping them have babies. And it's just been a whirlwind of an experience.
it almost seems like it was meant to be for you as well because you had Raelynn the night you graduated nursing school, right?
I did. The night of my nursing school graduation, my water broke.
She said, "Hello, it's me. I'm here. You are on the path now to labor and delivery, and we are starting today."
I mean, thank goodness she held out. That was I just needed her to make it to that night and she listened, and this is why she is still my good kid.
So you then continued your career in nursing, and of course, I know you and I have talked about even in the past too of we see it all the time with we get so many nurses that come into our program with health concerns and really struggling with their own bodies, their own health, their own fitness. It is such a challenging career, mentally, physically, in a lot of ways. And then, of course, you as well started a family, having two kids. It sounds like a lot of changes happening there for several years. I guess talk to me about like what ultimately led you to then finding more of the functional health coaching, hiring a coach, and really just reclaiming your health and getting back to the place that you more so are now.
Yeah, in 2017, I had my daughter, Raelynn. Um, and then I had my son 18 months later, which is not planned. But here we are. We have Raelynn and Cayden. And after about 6 months of having Cayden, I knew we only wanted two kids. We got blessed with a boy and a girl, and I wanted my body back. It had been a couple of years basically of straight pregnancy and being heavier than I have ever been in my entire life. And I've always been an athlete. I've always been involved in working out and nutrition and health and fitness. And so I was working out 5, 6, 7 days a week. I was eating as clean as I possibly could, low calorie. Nothing was working. I couldn't lose the baby weight. I felt awful. I was exhausted. I was constantly bloated. I just knew that I wasn't myself. I did have an IUD after having my son because we didn't want a third pregnancy. And so my sweet husband agreed to get a vasectomy so that I could get my IUD out and figure out what was going on with my body. So I hired my first coach in 2019 and decided to take control of my health and figure out how to get my body back because working out more and eating less was no longer working for me. So I at that point had to figure out who could help me and and what could I do from there because I knew that I didn't want to continue to feel like that for the rest of my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of the kind of protocols and different things that we use now, it's interesting to look back on, that was several years ago now that you were even using some of those protocols before you had learned them from a coaching context. You were a client, working with a functional health specialist, working through a lot of these things. What was that like for you going through, some of these types of things that especially I think they're becoming more commonplace now, but back in 2019, 2020, 2021, as you're kind of working through these things, this stuff was not so commonplace. It might have been considered more woo woo. It might have been something that was probably very challenging, I imagine, to navigate. Tell us about that a little bit more. What was that like, kind of navigating your health journey more?
Yeah, it was definitely challenging, Vanessa. I mean, I had 2 babies under 2. Well, I guess by the time I hired my first coach, she was probably 2.5, and he was, like, 1. Um, and so, yeah, I was chasing around 2 toddlers, and then I actually really couldn't even afford my first coach, but I was so desperate that my husband and I agreed to put on a credit card, and we just agreed that we would pay it off. And then I had a flush protocol thrown at me, and that involved supplements that I needed to follow through with this and to kind of reset my body. And so my sweet husband just continued to support me, and we just continued to invest in my health. And it didn't take us long to pay it off. But yeah, I had to, learn how to kind of eat my own meals for certain periods because that was what my body needed. And of course, my 1 and 2.5-year-old weren't going to sit down and have salmon and broccoli for dinner, but I was going to because that's what I needed to do for my health. And so I would often make multiple meals because it was so important to me, Vanessa. I was like, I will do whatever I can to feel better. And so it was one of those things where I was done with excuses and I was ready to just give it 110%. So, yeah, I had to order supplements that I had never used before. I didn't even really know that supplements could be this beneficial. I just thought you bought supplements like vitamins to try and things, right? Like I didn't know that these supplements could actually support your thyroid and your adrenals. And there's actually supplements out there to support your cortisol, right? I had no idea about cortisol. My first coach actually asked me, well, how do you manage your stress? And I was like, I'm not that stressed. I mean, I work out and I go for a run, and that's how I manage my stress, and everything's fine. And I just remember her kind of laughing, and she was like, "That is not how you manage your stress." She pulled back my workouts significantly. I went from working out 6 days a week to about 2 to 3. I went from eating probably 1,400 calories to like 1,900 calories, and I started seeing weight loss. I have never been so amazed in my entire life. I was starting to feel better. I had more energy to chase my kids around. I was losing weight. I wasn't bloated anymore. And I just was like, wow, there is something to this. And there is something to the fact that my hormones and my cortisol are all linked to all of the uh, symptoms that I had been experiencing for so long that I just thought were normal part of my life.
Man, that's so powerful. And thank you for sharing that too, because I think it's so important for, whether it's I'm sure some of your clients are probably listening, but others maybe who are just now being exposed to more of these functional health type of techniques. And it does sound new and different and also maybe a little bit scary. And for a lot of people hearing those things, they might think, oh, well, I'm a mom, I have young kids, I'm busy with my work, I have, I don't have enough kind of money to spare to do this. Like we can all have lots of reasons to not take care of ourselves, to not put ourselves first. But if we don't take care of ourselves, if we don't put ourselves first, if we don't let our health be the most important number one priority, then how can we prioritize anything else in our life? How can we be, the mom we need to be, the, maybe employee or business owner that we need to be, all these aspects of it. And I see that in your coaching. I see that in your ability to help the women through the harder times, through the difficulties, through the struggles, because, you know, no guarantees in life except for the guarantee that there's going to be struggles, and especially on the way to what we want, right? And so I find that to be, I think, one of your superpowers as a coach is your ability to help women through the hard stuff, through the challenges, through the difficulties, because you can look them in the eye and you're like, I get it, I've been in your shoes, maybe I am in your shoes in certain places, because we all are constantly, ongoing working through our own things as well. And you can empathize and you can guide them, and you can be both their coach and their guide, their leader, but also their friend, and kind of walk that walk with them. What do you feel like, maybe from your perspective, and maybe there's some things already coming up for you from me kind of going off on tangents here as I tend to do on the podcast, but, from your journey, what do you feel like are the things that maybe have led you to just be the coach you are today? Where you're like, man, I'm so glad I went through that, or I'm so glad that I had that challenge, or, I can see how that struggle, that difficulty has made me a better coach today and helps me help the women that I'm helping.
Yeah, one of the big things that stuck out to me what you were just talking about was how we have to take care of our own health in order to take care of our families and our kids. And that was just really sticking out to me as you were talking there, because a lot of people think that they don't have time, right? We think, we're chasing around kids, we're running them to practices and school and events, and we just don't have time. But you can't take care of your kids if you don't take care of yourself first. And so I think the fact that I've been through my own health journey, I was one of those people. I was running 5 days a week, and I was eating very little. Like, I understand where you're coming from. I've been there. I know how scary it is to reverse your calories and eat more. Like, you're telling me to eat more and work out less, and I'm going to lose weight. And I'm like, yes, I'm telling you, it's going to work. I've been in your shoes. I've had the doubt. And so, yeah, I think I'm so passionate about helping women not have to ever be in the shoes that I was in. And so, if I can help other people realize that we don't have to live our life like that. We don't have to be exhausted all the time and bloated every single day, no matter what you eat. That's not normal. And so, yeah, I mean, as a labor and delivery nurse, I get to help women every day. But as a coach, like, I get to help change lives. I get to help you realize that there are things that we can do to make sure that we don't have to feel that way every single day for the rest of our life anymore. There are ways to fix it. It's not normal to feel that way. I've been there, and I know that we can get you out of it. And so I think that that's just really what I lean into with my coaching is like you said, just the fact that I've been in your shoes, and we have so much incredible research and knowledge around functional health now that you no longer have to go to the doctor and be told you're fine. Just live with the fatigue and the bloating, maybe drink some caffeine, maybe try some supplements that they don't know what they're prescribing, right? They're just throwing things at you. But we actually have things in place to help you and to see results when it feels like nothing else is working anymore.
Man, I just mic drop on that one. I mean, that I think everybody needs to hear that, MacKenzie, and it's the reminder that we all need, because I think all of us women know that on that deep level. We all know inherently that we're like, we have to take care of ourselves if we're going to take care of others. And I know I'm capable of more. I know I'm capable of feeling better. I know I don't have to take the you're fine, everything's normal for an answer. But yet it's so hard, and sometimes we need that other person to look at us and give us permission to take care of ourselves and put ourselves first, but also encourage us and kind of give us that push to do so. And I think you're incredible at that as a coach. Speaking of you coaching, so we talked about of your kind of journey there from athletic training into nursing and labor and delivery nurse, and ultimately led you to where you are today as a full-time coach. What ultimately motivated you to want to start coaching and completely shift your career path, in your 30s, which I think a lot of people always want to hear that too, of like, hey, you can completely change your career, your what you're meant to do, your purpose at any point in life.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I still, of course, love labor and delivery. Bringing new life into the world is amazing. However, I feel like the impact that I get to have on women as a coach here at Vital Spark is so much longer lasting, than what I could ever do in a hospital. I wanted to become a coach because I wanted to make sure that women didn't have to struggle with weight loss, didn't have to struggle with feeling not themselves for the rest of their lives. I wanted to make that switch and really embrace this full time, because I just think that the impact that we get to make on women that is going to carry them through for years and years to come, and also affect how the next generation views their health and fitness, right? We get to make changes for our daughters. And so what I get to do as a coach is such a longer lasting impact and so life changing. I am so passionate about it that I just knew I had to make the switch, because this this career is, it's really uncomparable to anything else. And it's so rewarding to help women and to see them be able to change their lives.
Absolutely. Yeah. Our, as you know, of course, but for our listeners too, our mission statement here at Vital Spark is to transform women's relationship with food and their bodies so that the next generation doesn't have to. We really are seeking out having that generational impact. And I think it's really powerful to hear a coach like you who has had a career for a long time that is one that undeniably is so impactful and so powerful. You're bringing life into into the world. You're bringing life on Earth, and yet you can still take a step back and say, as a coach, I am having even more life changing impact here with the way that I'm transforming women's health and the way that that trickles down into their daughters, their sons, and just the generations that follow, the change that comes from that. You are extending life and you are changing lives in the work that you do day in, day out. That's incredible. I guess my only other question for you, MacKenzie, is I think you've dropped some really incredible, powerful things. I think a lot of people need to hear on this episode. I'm curious, what would you like? Maybe it's your clients or just anybody, maybe whether this is the first time they're hearing your story. What would you like them to know about your journey? Or how do you hope to just kind of inspire or support the women who are listening to this? What do you want them to take away from this episode?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I want women to take away is that if you feel like something is off in your body and you go to the doctor and they tell you everything's fine, but you know it deep down, you're probably right. You don't have to be exhausted every single day. You don't have to be bloated, having fear around, bowel movements and how you're going to feel after you go out to eat. I just lived my life for so long thinking that those symptoms were just normal. And nothing was ever wrong enough for a doctor to diagnose me with anything. But I knew my body and I knew that I just didn't feel the way I wanted to feel. I wanted to be present with my kids, with my husband, and healing my body internally and working on my hormones and everything else that kind of ties together in this functional journey was the best thing I did for myself. And so I just want women to know that they don't have to live that way, and there are things we can do and things that we can teach them that they can carry on for the rest of their life so that they can be the best version of themselves, mom, wife, friend, whatever that is. Yeah, they don't have to live with those symptoms every day.
Absolutely. Gosh, thank you, MacKenzie, for sharing kind of your wisdom, your insights here, and again, just sharing such powerful things for everybody to hear. Thank you all for listening today. I hope that you enjoyed getting to hear a little bit more of MacKenzie's story and her background. MacKenzie, where could our listeners maybe connect with you, reach out to you, whether it's on social media or uh,
Yeah, so everybody can find me on Instagram at Mackenzie_Bowman3, or you can find me on Facebook, just Mackenzie Bowman.
Yeah, well, if you resonate with MacKenzie, I'm sure she would love to hear from you if you want to reach out to her. But again, thank you, MacKenzie, for taking time to share your story. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back next week with another episode.
Thanks for having me.